the Brooklyn Nets, they're shutting down Ben Simmons for the rest of the season. That is what Coach Jacques Vaughn said this morning.
Mask and gloves.
Now, Simmons, he hasn't played Jalen since the Nets' final game before the All-Star break. That was last month due to a nerve issue in his back. So he's missed a total of 33 games this season. That is due to both a knee injury and a back injury here. So you can see here, Ben Simmons, he played 42 games. His salary for the season, it was $35.4 million. That figure jumps to $37.9 million next season, and then $40 million 2 seasons after that. So as it figures now, both of those figures would rank in the top 20 highest salaries in the NBA. So there's a whole lot going on there.
Keep getting them checks.
I think the best way to say this is that we root for every player. We know how hard it is to get here. We know how hard it is to get drafted, a second contract. But do I have any emotional feeling towards it? Now, Jalen, how many guys you know played 6, 7 years and are selling insurance?
Most.
How many guys you know that played 8, 9 years and, you know, we just never hear from again?
Many.
Many. So, like, we sit here because it's involved. We sit here because we're connected. But do we have any emotional connection to this? No, because we've seen it all before. We've seen players with all the talent in the world not make it. We've seen players with all the talent in the world decide to just move on and step away from the game. So when I look at this situation with Ben Simmons, yeah, we root for every player. I have not met a player that I don't root for the best. But when you ask me about Ben Simmons, I know a lot of guys like that. Because this is what we do. This is what we've done. I wasn't the best player on my AAU team. I wasn't the best player on my college team. A lot of guys don't make it out. If this is his story and this is how it finishes, then I wish him the best. I wish him nothing but love, and I wish that he just continues and lives his life.
Richard, I think this is interesting just because of the great expectations. When he came into the league, he was like that prodigy. He was that phenom, right? Yeah. And there were great expectations on him. A lot of comps to LeBron James and how he was able to facilitate the ball. And then he goes to a team where he's successful. I think it's just this rapid decline that unfortunately is circumstantial. You look at the Brooklyn Nets overall. They had so many stars. They're all gone. And now the star remaining is the one that probably is the hardest one to try to revive. And that's a difficult place as a franchise. That's a difficult place as a player to be. You know, it's been a transitional year, but nonetheless, we haven't seen any evidence to feel like we feel better about it, which is why, yeah, you're right.
We've all been injured.
We've all been injured. We all deal with the realities of the game.
We've all been injured.
But I think it's the expectations and the microscope on Ben Simmons that makes this unique.
Don't care.
So the job turnover and the volatility of it in the NBA is as risky as it gets in any professional sport. When we finish this season, there's going to be 80 guys that was on rosters this year that won't be on teams next year.
That's part of a life.
And when Ben Simmons got traded to the Nets, the first thing I saw was, okay, he was all NBA All-Star with Sixers.
Yeah.
Won't be All-Star with Nets. So now, psychologically, to both of you guys' point, as a player, is he going to have the mental fortitude once he gets back healthy to reinvent himself as a role player? Because that's what he's going to be called upon to be going forward. And lastly, this game is so very hard when you can't shoot. This game is so hard when you can't shoot. And psychologically, I always felt he was going to the bucket, finishing with his right hand, but going to the free throw line, shooting with his left hand. And I felt the entire time he was shooting with the incorrect hand. And so for a guy that played on the perimeter, doesn't shoot shots outside of the paint at all, that's another psychological barrier that he's going to have to get over.
But he's a big man, right? He's a big man. He's still 6'10", so there's things that he can do to adjust his game. Correct. You've seen it over the course. It's like, okay, then I'm going to roll and finish guy. And it's like lots of guys shoot terrible from the free throw line. It's just you can't have a fear to go there. And so I sit here, and when we talk about coddling players, and again, I root for Ben Simmons, but when we talk about coddling players, it's like, the NBA is not made for everyone. Winning championships is not made for everyone.
The league will humble you eventually.
The league will just be like, all right, we'll move on.
But here's what makes it different for Ben. He's a tall guy, not a big guy.
Yep.
He's a primary ball handler, Richard.
He's a big dude.
He's a perimeter player.
He's a perimeter player, though. He played point guard, okay? He wasn't playing 5. Now, as a reinvention, he's playing a small ball 5 on the baseline.
But that's the question, right? Another chapter, another reinvention.
We're rooting for him.
And that's the thing. Is like you want to see Ben Simmons be able to come back to that level. An all-NBA player, a 3-time All-Star.
Almost Defensive Player of the Year.
12th in MVP voting in the 2020-2021 season. Like, he has all of that. It's a matter.
We've just seen it, Malika.
Right?
We've seen it.
Right?
Where's Brandon Roy? Where's Jonathan Bender? Where's Yao Ming? We've seen guys that dealt with injuries. We've seen guys that haven't been able to mentally and emotionally handle this. This ain't, I ain't gonna cuss, but this ain't for everyone. It ain't.
Well, the Brooklyn Nets are hoping that it is.
I hope it is. I'm rooting for you,
They
Ben.
can't.
I will never understand the excuses for Ben Simmons. I don't care if he is a perimeter player. You have to reinvent yourself and find a way to contribute. You're one of the highest paid players in the NBA. You're on a max contract. You have to find a way to be effective on the court. Especially after last season, where you got millions of dollars from a settlement from the 76ers while not playing a single game. In his career, Ben Simmons has never been a good shooter. Why is this an excuse for him to be a shell of himself? They're not upset that he couldn't shoot the basketball. They were upset when he passed up an open dunk in the playoffs. If you watch him play, he's nothing like the player he once was. He's afraid to go to the rim because he doesn't want to get fouled and go to the free throw line. He's scared to shoot in any situation. He's not even the same defender he once was. His coach, Jacques Vaughn, doesn't know how to use him, and the front office can't get rid of him. The problem with Ben Simmons is that he doesn't take basketball seriously. So why are we making excuses for him? If he took the game seriously, he wouldn't have been kicked out of practice by Doc Rivers. He also wouldn't have told Brooklyn that he's coming back for Game 3 of the playoffs just to skip out at the last second. A player that takes the game seriously wouldn't be scared of the free throw line or scared to shoot the ball like Ben Simmons. Shaquille O'Neal was a horrible free throw shooter, but he still went to the line multiple times every game. LeBron James wasn't always the best shooter, but he would still take plenty of three-pointers to keep the defense honest and to help his team win games. Whatever it took, Ben Simmons is afraid to play basketball. He won't even work on his game to adapt, to reinvent himself for his teammates, and it's pretty obvious if you watch him play basketball. Someone who has that little confidence, there's always a reason for it. If he took the game seriously and practiced enough, he'd be able to overcome that. Kevin Love and DeMar DeRozan both admitted that they suffered with mental health. I don't like Ben Simmons using that as a shield to get paid millions of dollars to not perform and to not show up. If it were that bad, Ben Simmons would just step away from the game completely. There's been other players that have, but instead, Ben Simmons hangs around the team to make sure he's still getting paid that massive contract to not perform. That's why I don't understand why we keep making excuses for Ben Simmons. We wouldn't do it for any other player, and if you or me tried to do that, we would get fired. This isn't hating on Ben Simmons. No one has any problems with Ben Simmons. It's the reality of his situation. But that's just what I think. Let me know in the comments what you guys think. And don't forget to leave a like if you enjoyed this video and subscribe for more NBA content just like this. And I will see you in the next upload.